This is the introduction to space and landscapes. Space is an element of art. It refers to the distance between or the area around and within shapes, forms, colors, and lines. And there are many different strategies for utilizing space in visual arts. When creating a painting of a landscape, you will need to utilize space as an element of art. So there are a few things you need to know. Space can be positive or negative. Typically, the subject is positive and the background would be negative. Here's an example in a watercolor painting. It also includes the foreground, middle ground, and background. Here's another example in a watercolor landscape. It also includes perspective, which is a technique to create the linear illusion of depth in a drawing. As objects get further away, they appear to decrease in size. Here's another example showing one-point perspective. It also includes overlap, shading, placement, size, value and focus, and again, perspective. Here's an example of overlapping. Look at what's overlapping each other. Far objects go behind, and objects in front, of course, go in front. We have shading, dark values, medium values, light values. Here's another example of shading in a watercolor painting. Size. Far objects are smaller, close objects are bigger. It doesn't necessarily matter, like these dandelions are bigger than the mountains because they're much closer. So you want to draw things and paint things how you see them, and it helps create the illusion of space and depth. Here's surface. So far objects are high up on the page, close objects are low on the page. Foreshortening is a technique where far objects converge and sort of come closer together, and close objects converge and move further apart. Density is where far objects are a little blurrier, have less detail, and kind of fade away, and close objects are sharper and crisp edges. Here's an example of value and focus. Look what happens to those trees as they go back in space. Atmospheric perspective is the effect of taking on the atmosphere. As things go back in space, they get lighter, brighter, and even though the edges stay really crisp. This is that effect that we often see when we're looking out at the mountains, but it is visible even at night and underwater. Cool and warm is important to note because warm colors come forward at us and cool colors go back in space. So color can help us create an illusion of depth in our paintings. Here's an example of a reverse color perspective, however, which could happen when the sun is setting and the light is shifting. Here's a change in color sample as well, and a change in value sample, a change in contrast sample. And your assignment is going to be to choose one of the next three options. And I want to mention that your landscapes can be real or imaginary, can be anywhere, desert, beach, mountain, city, country, etc., and must include a background, middle ground, and a foreground. So option 1, gather at least 3 landscape photos from the internet, I like Unsplash.com, and combine components from each 3 to create something original. A sky from one, trees from another, mountains from a different one. You could also use a landscape photo you took without combining and just use it directly. And you may also design a landscape purely from your imagination if you choose. So what you need to do is a landscape sketch in your sketchbook and choose one of those 3 options. Combining 3 or more photos together, draw from a landscape photo you took, or create a landscape purely from your imagination. And do just a very small, simple line sketch in your sketchbook.